So, what do we know about Superintendent Chalmers? For one, he hates Skinner.
Skinner!
But he does seem to have a thing for his mum.
Mother? Superintendent Chalmers. Skinner?
He also has a daughter named Shauna, but there are other facts about Gary that many fans do not know.
This used to be just a little part of me.
Hi there, Simpsons fans. My name is Lydia, and this is the complete timeline of Gary Chalmers.
Well, Seymour, you are an odd fellow, but I must say, you steam a good ham.
The early days of Gary Chalmers. Over the course of the show, Chalmers has mentioned a few places of origin, but his hometown seems to be Utica, New York.
Well, I'm from Utica, and I've never heard anyone use the phrase steamed hams.
We also learn that he has a twin brother, Police Superintendent Chalmers, and strangely, you would only really know this if you've seen Family Guy's Shanksgiving, as this was the twins' only known appearance. Gary fell in love and married a lady named Rosemary. However, unfortunately, she died sometime off screen, but he still remembers her with great fondness. During an overnight trip to Springfield Forest, Chalmers discloses to Bart that the mornings were when he missed her the most. Gary and his late wife had a daughter together named Shauna, and her character remains to be the only consistent female bully. Introduced as a reoccurring character in season 20, their father-daughter relationship wasn't confirmed until season 25, long after she debuted on the show.
What's my no-good daughter up to now?
It was quite a surprise to us fans, but an interesting dynamic nonetheless, as she seems to go against everything the schooling system stands for. But during their early years as father and daughter, Gary seems to be a good and present single father, sharing happy memories together like when she joined the Girl Scouts. However, like all sweet girls, we eventually turn into moody teenagers, and despite Chalmers trying everything to get closer to his daughter, she constantly rebels against him.
Pumpkin, I'm doing my best. Do you understand that?
Gary Chalmers starting out as a teacher. Chalmers is best known as Superintendent Chalmers, or as Ralph likes to call him,
Hi, Super Nintendo Chalmers!
He seems to carry an air of an assertive, by-the-book kind of fellow, but to be completely frank, he seems to be just about as good at his job as Skinner is at his. But before Chalmers was a superintendent, he was a high school teacher. He ended up leaving this profession when he got his ass handed to him by the Fight Club, who he mistook for a breakfast club. Later on, Chalmers did actually go back to teaching for a short period, and he had a bit more success too, becoming somewhat of a mentor to Bart. Chalmers vs. Skinner. One of the Simpsons' greatest running gags is the relationship between Chalmers and Skinner.
Superintendent Chalmers, welcome!
Hello, Seymour.
They have worked together for many years, and they've had a pretty turbulent time of it. Skinner, just to put it simply, drives Chalmers nuts. He seems to spend more time kissing the superintendent's butt than doing his actual job, and just seems plain needy. But I don't think this is Skinner's intention. Now, I've discussed this at length within Skinner's timeline, but I can't help but feel that his lack of father figure has placed Chalmers within that void. It may also be combined with the fact that Seymour served in the army, so was naturally subservient to his superiors. His nervousness and desperation to appease Gary is bound to cause him some embarrassing moments while under pressure. This was superbly portrayed in the whole steamed ham skit.
And you call them steamed hams despite the fact they are obviously grilled.
Skinner really tried to convince Chalmers that steamed hams were a thing, and he definitely didn't just go and buy food from Krusty Burger. These lies upon lies mounted up to the point where Skinner tried to convince Chalmers that his kitchen wasn't on fire and that it was just the Northern Lights.
Seymour, the house is on fire!
No, Mother, it's just the Northern Lights.
Also, fun fact, in the DVD commentary to 22 short films about Springfield, the Simpsons creators noted that Superintendent Chalmers seems to be one of the only few normal characters in the show, and that Chalmers is frequently alone in his awareness of the show's zaniness. Perhaps this is why, other than shouting Skinner, he's a pretty unknown character, so therefore keeping him as ordinary as possible makes him an easy character to compare the crazy to. Chalmers attempts to get rid of Skinner. As we've said before, Superintendent Chalmers does not like Principal Skinner, and so the temptation to fire him would be difficult to resist. Eventually, Skinner pushed Chalmers that bit too far, and this disaster took the form of an oily Scotsman in an air vent. And I'm telling you, a greasy willy is enough to make anyone mad. Therefore, Chalmers replaces Skinner with Ned Flanders, which turns into an absolute debacle, leading on to the inevitable rehiring of Skinner. Chalmers has fired Skinner since, such as in Grade School Confidential, and it only took Skinner's entire dignity to get his job back.
Because no one, anywhere, ever, would pretend to be a 44-year-old virgin.
Following in the footsteps of Theodore Roosevelt. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot of people that Superintendent Chalmers seems to respect, but Chalmers does have a personal hero in the late and great President Theodore Roosevelt. Gary has long been inspired by the legendary President's zeal for adventure and life. Chalmers even brought that same inspiration and love to Bart and the bullies at one point in an attempt to inspire them with the legends of Roosevelt. It even worked, to some extent. They all improved over the course of the episode, but they returned back to normal by the next. It's funny how that keeps happening. Gary Chalmers prepares for the end of the world. The Simpsons doesn't spend a whole lot of time digging into the personal life of Superintendent Chalmers, sadly, but when they do, each layer is more interesting than the one before. Such as there was the time when surveillance cameras spread across Springfield, with 742 Evergreen Terrace being a blind spot. Therefore, the Simpsons' house is transformed into a gathering place for rebellious activity, and Superintendent Chalmers was spotted swinging nunchucks while prancing in a tutu. So I guess you could say that this guy has some hidden interests. Another is shown when Homer finds himself getting into the prepper lifestyle. Now, if you didn't know, the prepper lifestyle is basically living a life prepared for the unforeseen destruction and disasters. It sounds like a good time, basically. In the show, there were a few people involved in the group, including, you guessed it, Gary Chalmers, who was dearly devoted to the cause. It honestly wasn't a surprise to see Gary there. He does seem like the kind of guy to get involved in such an endeavour and take it gravely seriously. Taking a leaf out of his hero Teddy Roosevelt's book, he's no stranger to a big adventure. We will also see his other deeply committed interests a bit later on in the show, such as in season 33, where he is discovered to have an almost cult-like interest in beer brewing. Skinner vs. Chalmers, is it a brewing friendship? Yes, Skinner can be a spineless liar who would kiss anyone's butt to save his own skin, and Chalmers has been on the receiving end of an unwanted butt kissing on many occasions.
It's always the children's fault, isn't it, Seymour?
Yes. Yes, it is, sir.
But as well as being at odds, they've also been allies at times. Thanks to Lisa cheating on a test, the comptroller decided to give Springfield Elementary increased funding. But Lisa had a change of heart and decided to come clean, so the principal and the superintendent worked together to trick Lisa to make sure they still got that moolah. In these moments, it's almost like they're friends, but then Skinner messes up, Chalmers yells his name, and everything is right in the world once again. But deep down, I believe there is a friendship down there, and this is beautifully shown in the episode Road to Cincinnati. Now, I recently watched this episode again, and I've got to say that if you haven't, you've really got to watch it. Basically, the entire episode focuses on Skinner's initial need to be liked by Chalmers, to the eventual road trip that they'll embark on together, all because Seymour is Gary's only chance to get him to an administrators convention where he's the keynote speaker. On the trip, we see how Skinner's pure presence is enough to drive the superintendent into pure hatred. But slowly and surely through their adventure, Skinner shows himself to be just a nice guy. There's nothing malicious, vindictive, or really annoying about him. And at the episode, Chalmers realizes this and even admits that he likes and respects Seymour Skinner. Shauna His Daughter. A major theme in The Simpsons is the relationships between parents and children. Homer's relationship with his own mother and father have been the driving force for many great episodes. The same rings true for Homer and Marge's relationships with their kids. This also speaks for other residents in Springfield, including Gary and Shauna Chalmers. And much of the mystery that surrounds them cleared in season 33's Girls Just Shauna Have Fun. Within the episode, we find out that this father and daughter both have secret but committed passions. Gary's is in home-brewed beer to a cult-like degree, and Shauna's was drumming for the school band. And luckily, two of our main protagonists, Homer and Lisa, seem like the perfect pair to bring these quiet characters out of their shells. I liked the way in which Homer and Chalmers interacted. You could just tell that they differed in why they wanted to get into beer making, but the euphoria mixed with intoxication brought out a beautiful friendship. We could also see that someone as straight as Chalmers can be a little silly too, and I feel that this was a really nice starting point to expand more into Gary's and Shauna's home life. Superintendent Chalmers in the future. As always, in this segment of the video, I like to take a look into the non-canon future episodes to see where our favourite characters may end up. And unfortunately for Chalmers, his future doesn't seem too hot. In the episode Future Drama, which takes place in the future at around the same time Bart and Lisa are teenagers, getting ready for their high school graduation, Superintendent Chalmers is practically a vegetable.
Remember, STEM kills.
It's what turned Superintendent Chalmers into a vegetable.
In the episode Holidays of Future Past, set 30 years into the future from the present day, Superintendent Chalmers is shown to be frozen in Springfield's cryogenic facility, along with the elderly residents of Springfield. However, fast forward again into the episode Mother and Child Reunion, Chalmers is shown to make some backwards comments about Lisa running for the state school superintendent job.
I'm not gonna let some stupid, nasty, homely woman...
Now, I'm not personally a fan of these future depictions of Chalmers, especially as he's always been shown to be pretty supportive of Lisa. But seeing as they're non-canon examples, I guess we can ignore them. So there we have it, folks. That is what we know of Gary Chalmers so far. Thank you so much, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.